What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know, including another WWE superstar injured again, who won this week's Wednesday Night War, WWE SNUBS Vickie Guerrero, the end of scripted promos, Jon Moxley's AEW fear, an ex-WWE superstar claims he's suffered hundreds of concussions, another Hall of Fame induction, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. But let's waste no further time and get straight into the first story, as a WWE superstar has been injured again. Yeah, Pro Wrestling Sheet's Ryan Satin is reporting that Samoa Joe was recently injured in a freak accident. In his exclusive story, Satin reported, according to sources, the injury took place at a WWE commercial shoot last week when Joe hit his head during a bad table break as they were filming a stunt. While it's unconfirmed at this point, sources tell us Joe could be out of action for a considerable amount of time. This is terrible news for Joe, who recently suffered a concussion that sidelined him briefly, and before that, a broken thumb which kept him out of the ring for several months. Now, some wrestlers are injury prone, but Joe's latest injury raises the question of why the WWE would have one of its superstars, particularly one who is injury prone and recently recovered from a concussion, participate in an unnecessary stunt. At this point, it can be considered that Joe getting out of bed could lead to an injury. So unfortunate. Next up, who won this week's Wednesday Night War? Can you believe it's week 21 of the Wednesday Night War? More importantly, can you believe that AEW Dynamite beat NXT yet again? Now, Dynamite featured a loaded show including an AEW World Tag Team Championship match, as well as Cody Rhodes' big cage match against MJF's bodyguard Wardlow. NXT featured a main event of arch rivals Velveteen Dream taking on Roderick Strong and an NXT Cruiserweight Championship match. While AEW won, there were improvements for both shows. The Wrestling Observer Figure 4 Online's Paul Fontaine explained, Dynamite averaged 893,000 viewers, up 9% from last week. In the 18 to 49 demographic, the show averaged a 0.31 rating, which was up 3% from the prior week. Dynamite finished 5th in the cable television ratings in that category. As Fontaine mentioned, there was no major sports competition, although there was heavy competition from the Democratic presidential debate. NXT improved this week too, with Fontaine explaining it averaged 794,000 viewers, and it was up 4% in the 18 to 49 demographic, averaging 0.25. NXT finished 16th in the cable ratings. It's curious why NXT doesn't try to counter-program Dynamite. While Triple H has said that NXT plans a slow growth, its current booking doesn't seem to be growing its audience. Do you think NXT is doing okay with their current product, or do they need to shake things up? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, WWE SNUBS Vickie Guerrero. A former SmackDown General Manager, Vickie Guerrero, has her own podcast, and according to the ex-SmackDown General Manager, the WWE has snubbed her from the promotion thanks to her guest commentating on an appearance of AEW Dark. During an episode of a podcast, Excuse Me, Vickie revealed,
I have the podcast now, and I had asked to interview some superstars for my podcast, and they found out that I went to AEW, and now they don't even talk to me.
Yep, that's what they thought with me too.
And I was, between me and you, let's just put it that way. I mean, they didn't call me for 2 years. I haven't heard from them. So what did they expect me to do? Just to sit here and wait for them to call so I could do some work? I mean, no. I'm going to go. I love wrestling. I love to work in the ring. And if someone's giving me an opportunity to go and show up and have some fun, then I should be able to, because I'm not obligated to anybody.
Yep, that's how it should be.
Yeah, but I saw that I pissed in their Cheerios, and so be it, right?
Yeah, well, that's the way I see it.
Vickie's sentiments aren't hers alone. The WWE seems to have a policy of expecting former WWE superstars to sit by the phone waiting for work, despite the growing number of opportunities for wrestlers and personalities to work elsewhere. Next up, are we seeing the end of scripted promos? Now, we've been hearing different things about the WWE's promo policy, with some wrestlers claiming the promos aren't as heavily scripted as fans think, and now Jerry the King Lawler noted that Paul Heyman is giving wrestlers much more room to tell a story on the microphone. During an episode of his podcast, Lawler said,
for the first time, they're giving him an opportunity to be himself. And that's the one thing now that Paul Heyman is sort of in charge of Raw. it's so much not the characters are not being so predetermined by the writers or creative. They're giving the guys a chance to be themselves, just like you were at the time. You know, back when you became Stone Cold Steve Austin, nobody was in there telling you, "Oh no, this is how you got to be." I mean, you were yourself. You were given that opportunity, and you took it.
Judging from some of the promos we've heard on Raw, there are certain wrestlers who need much more work before they can cut promos with just an outline. Other than Becky Lynch's promo on the 17th February Raw, there are no other ones that are really that memorable. Next up, Jon Moxley's AEW Fear. AEW launched its new podcast featuring Tony Schiavone and referee Aubrey Edwards, with Jon Moxley showing up to discuss a number of topics, including his fears about debuting at AEW's Double or Nothing pay-per-view. To be perfectly honest, at the time, I didn't know if people were going to cheer, if they were going to boo, if they weren't going to make any noise at all. Just feel like my reputation had been tarnished so bad that I had to start from scratch. That obviously didn't happen, and Mox has become one of the company's biggest stars, proving AEW was wise to hire some big name talent rather than only signing stars from the indie scene. Moxley has also joked about he and Renee Young are a true power couple considering all the money they're making from various wrestling groups. Moxley said he'd love for Renee Young to sign with the Today Show so he could quit wrestling and get fat like Arn Anderson. Next up, an ex-WWE superstar claims he's suffered hundreds of concussions. It seems like Mr. Monday Night Rob Van Dam has had his fair share of concussions, actually what sounds like far too many. During an appearance on the Steve Austin show, the whole effing show told Austin, "I've had hundreds, seriously hundreds of concussions. Balls Mahoney would hit me with a chair, then Crackit would be like everything's in slow motion. Sometimes the sound goes out, sometimes you know everything's spinning. I had double vision, but I just couldn't shake it off, and I kept thinking, well, you know it'll be gone tomorrow, so I'm not gonna let anybody know. The show must go on." Although RVD claims he can still perform 90% of his moves, it's scary to think just how much damage his brain must have suffered after 30 years in the ring. Next up, another WWE Hall of Fame induction leaked. WrestleVotes recently announced there's talk of another name going around for this year's WWE Hall of Fame, one that would make for another two-time inductee. WrestleVotes tweeted, "Working on confirming another Hall of Fame name. If what I'm hearing is accurate, the NWO won't be the only superstars receiving their second Hall of Fame ring that night." Speculation turned to tag team Edge and Christian, which would make Edge a two-time Hall of Famer. However, WrestleVotes tried to dispel the pic, tweeting, "Guys stop, not Edge or Christian." No word on who might be getting their second Hall of Fame ring, but it's evident the WWE is starting to run dry when it comes to top-of-the-line Hall of Famers, given the growing number of superstars with more than one ring. Next up, WWE Backstage ratings down again. WWE's Backstage yo-yo pattern of ratings continued this week, with the 18th February episode's ratings dropping from last week's. This week's episode, which featured WWE Hall of Famer Mark Henry and North American Champion Keith Lee, brought in 127,000 viewers compared to last week's 169,000, which featured an appearance by CM Punk. Currently, there's no pattern to the FS1 show's ratings, other than they appear to be all over the place. Next up, Rhea Ripley talks WrestleMania 36 and WWE banning something she loved. NXT Women's Champion Rhea Ripley is preparing for her WrestleMania 36 title defense against the Queen Charlotte Flair, but she's also preparing for the match to become a triple threat match with Bianca Belair added in. In an exclusive interview with TalkSport's Alex McCarthy, the champ discussed how she felt about an added challenger in the match. "Bianca and I are so unique in our different ways, but when we get in the ring we seem to mesh. If people want to see her join our match at WrestleMania, and if that does happen, I'm not going to complain. I love fighting with Bianca. Just to have one more person out there, it would be cool." Ripley talked about her love of tattoos and how this affects her WWE career, or more specifically, how her WWE career affects her tattoos. "I just love tattoos. I don't know why, but unfortunately for me, WWE isn't clearing my upper body for tattoos. That's where I wear pants. I got pants so I wouldn't have to clear my tattoos because you can't see them. I'm trying to finish my leg sleeves, then hopefully I can convince people to let me get my arm sleeves and other stuff, but we'll see how that goes." Ripley's riding high right now in the WWE, and the promotion obviously sees a lot in her for the company's future. It's just weird why they wouldn't let her get any tattoos. And a final story, do we know who the Exalted One is? The identity of the Dark Order's leader, the Exalted One, has had fans guessing just who he is. WrestlingNews.co tweeted a picture of former ECW and WWE superstar Raven at the 19th February edition of Dynamite, fueling rumors Raven could be revealed as the group's leader. Raven's picture was tweeted along with the following, So Raven was sitting in the crowd during the Tag Team Battle Royal on AEW Dynamite. Is he the leader of the Dark Order? Raven would definitely fit in the Dark Order's Exalted one, but what are the other candidates such as Matt Hardy or Christopher Daniels? Which wrestler would you prefer seeing guiding AEW's faction? Or is there someone else you want to see ruling the group? Let us know in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.